Right, here we go again. Welcome to the Chris Woollams Sunday show, although this will probably go out on a weekday. Another one in the series of cancer, Why You're Not Doomed. It's my little series and my hobby horse at the moment. Today's guest is, I could say, a cancer conqueror. It's Sophie Trew, and she had lymphoma once upon a time. But we're not going to talk about that today. We're actually going to talk about her new venture, which is called Breathworks. So good morning, Sophie. How are you?
Good morning, Chris. Yeah, really good. Good to be here with you. Nice to be back.
It's a pleasure as always. One of the big factors in cancer treatment, as you know, when I build a program for people, I start off, it's almost my first issue, is how high is your oxygen? Because we know if your oxygen comes down from 99, you get all sorts of problems. And we'll talk about this as we go on into the show. So I want people to be up in the 9900 area, but it's not just overall oxygen I worry about, it's localized oxygen for a lot of reasons. So it's not just blood, it's tissues and so on. Now, why don't you start off? It's your show, really. Why don't you tell me about Breathworks?
Okay. Yeah. So breathwork is the idea that a lot of people say, why do I need to notice my breath? Every day I'm breathing. Why do I need to learn about it? And the reason is that every day we take on average 20,000 breaths. Most people have never thought about the way that they breathe. And most people are only using about 25% of their lung capacity. So as you said, if we're using such a limited amount and we're not aware that we can take in these deep diaphragmatic breaths, we're limiting that supply of oxygen to our whole body. And so breathwork really is techniques, breathing techniques and relaxation techniques to help you to open up to your full lung capacity, this kind of belly, upper chest breath. And if we think about when we're stressed or when we're anxious, and inevitably this comes with a cancer diagnosis, most people might be upper chest breathing. We're kind of shoulder breathing, we're breathing up here. And so in breathwork, I'm noticing you're doing that now, Chris. You're noticing your breath. In breathwork, it's about how can I come back down to this low belly, diaphragm, rib cage, really expanding back to that breath that when we're born, or if you think about holding a baby or if you see a dog or a cat breathing, they don't hold their breath and they don't take a breath in and then not let it go, because we know that that exhale is so important when it comes to detoxing. So there's the idea that I think it's around 70% of the toxins in our body as well leave on the exhale. And so if we're only using 25% of our lung capacity, that's affecting our energy, it's affecting everything, and it's also affecting our capacity to release those toxins as well. So breathwork, it's there's the kind of origins in pranayama in yoga, which originates in India. And this is really, it's a series of tools and techniques to help you to come back into your body. Because often people are saying, how do I connect to my body? And really, it is the breath is the bridge between the mind and the body. It's the tool that helps you to, one of the quickest ways to center and just to notice, to pay attention to how you feel, is taking that deep breath.
What made you decide to get into this area?
Good question. So when I was recovering, I've been kind of in recovery for 7 years. I actually was seriously asthmatic, severely asthmatic from the age of about 9, 10. And I remember there were times that I used to go to bed wheezing and not breathing properly. And I really feel that was a big factor in the diagnosis that I had, the kind of lack of oxygen. And there's that connection, isn't there, to cancer and hypoxia and low blood oxygen, as you said. But I got into it because there are so many different things that we can do. As you said, cancer, we're not doomed, but I feel everyone has their kind of own unique thing that really resonates for them. Some people, it might be Qigong. Some people, it might be meditation. For me, when I came to trying a breathwork session, it was kind of like everything opened up. And actually, I don't have asthma anymore. I've got rid of all of that from healing my gut and the breathwork and other techniques. So it's kind of personal experience. And then seeing just the transformative benefits that I have with clients in one-on-ones and group sessions. People say it was the first time they slept properly in months, or lots of shifts. So yeah.
Well, I find I have this sort of little way of working, and I say to people, imagine I did a blood sample on you, and they always think, I'm going to say, look, I've seen certain things about you, and they always think I'm going to talk about diet and exercise straight away and supplements, but it almost shocks them. I say, well, the first thing I might see about you is that you don't have 99 or 100% oxygen, and it's almost like a puzzlement on their face that actually it might matter. And we know categorically in cancer that if your oxygen comes down from 99, then your cancer becomes more aggressive. You actually get more metastasis. I mean, we've got the research. And we also know that you can have low localized oxygen, and that causes more epigenetic changes. It causes more cancer cells to form. So it's a really, really important area to get into. And I think it's absolutely great to have another weapon or another way of getting people into oxygen or oxygen. So I applaud you for it.
Exactly. And it's a huge one. Even if you're having treatment, if you're having surgery, you can actually just be doing your deep breathing exercises while you're in the chair for chemo.
Well, just tell me about that, because I remember a case where the lady, actually, I said, do you know your oxygen? She said, it's about 91, 92. And when she'd gone to the hospital, the nurse said, oh, don't worry about that. Go and sit in the corner and just do a bit of breathing exercise and you'll be all right. And my attitude to that was, well, I don't think you would be all right, because I don't see how in 2 minutes time, while the oxygen meter may go up to 99, how it's going to affect you in that time. So what sort of time scale do you need to spend doing this a day?
I think we probably it wants to be a thing that it's not just 20 minutes of kind of noticing your breath, but we want to be making it more of a habit that we are aware of it kind of every hour.
So it's something you really want me to change. It's almost a lifestyle change.
Exactly.
So can I ask, I mean, as you know, I don't frequent Britain very much. So I do get told by patients, what do you think of Wim Hof? Is this what he does, or are you completely different from what people have seen on the telly?
Yeah, so I bring in some Wim Hof tools. I think he's interesting. I think he does a lot of the cold water therapy and the cold showers, which can be really supportive for inflammation. Outside of cancer, I've seen that being really beneficial for friends with Crohn's and kind of gut conditions. But yeah, the breathing that I do, some of it is Wim Hof. He can sometimes be a little bit too activating for people. So if we think about the nervous system, we don't want to be taking people over the edge if they're in a place of kind of high sympathetic mode. So sometimes his breathing can take you to that. What I would integrate is kind of down regulating, longer exhale. And then I really like his breath holds. So he doesn't exhale and then holds on the exhale. And that can be really good for coming into the parasympathetic. So Wim Hof is great for some people, but really breath work is like a Swiss Army knife. So we kind of want to look at the way that you breathe affects every system and function in your body. So you'll like it, Chris, because it's that kind of, it affects our gut health, it affects our nervous system, affects our heart rate. So we can change the way we breathe for energy. We can change our breathing pattern to improve our sleep, to get back into that parasympathetic mode, which we know for people who have got cancer, we've got this kind of dysregulation that we need to balance with our nervous system.
So you would say you're actually trying to teach people something to adopt in their whole life, rather than do this for 40 minutes every day, like meditation or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. But hopefully over time, if we think about that meditation, a little bit like going to the gym, if we keep working the muscle in our brain to be present or to be a bit more mindful, then over time that meditation is it's part of our lifestyle anyway.
Would you say that when you do your breathing exercise, breathing exercise, it leads naturally to something like meditation?
Yeah, it's really good for people that say, I can't meditate, I'm too busy, because it gives you an activity to focus on. Yeah.
when do I have a spare hour? But I'm actually very
Yeah.
grateful for the fact now I don't have to swim underwater under an ice lake or run barefoot for a
Yeah.
marathon. So I did flinch at that a bit at my age. All right, now let's just talk about this whole kind of beneficial effects. So let's simplify it. What are the physical benefits of getting your breathing correct?
So the physical benefits, so it can improve our immune system because it helps us to regulate our nervous system, which then regulates our immune system. Really supportive for the lymphatic system by getting things pumping as well, especially if we bring in breath work and some yoga. So I bring in some gentle stretching in that way. It's going to increase our blood oxygen, which has a lot of benefits. Good for energy and really good for the gut as well, because you're taking, what happens is it's kind of this chicken and egg response. So we know that I think it's 1 in 5 people that go through cancer diagnosis end up with PTSD. That's the research recently. And we know that when
for some people, we just need to explain that's a stress disorder, really, that comes from the whole, is it chemo? Have I got cancer? Am I going to survive next week? And so on. It's a stress disorder you're talking about. Yes?
Yeah. So post-traumatic stress disorder. And so when we are in a trauma response, we're contracted. It's this kind of idea that it's too much too soon. So something happens to us, it's too much too soon, and our bodies haven't been able to discharge that energy. And so we hold it in. And so what happens with our breath when it comes to that is we start to breathe shallow. So inevitably, again, we want to be breathing deep, but when we're going through the challenge of cancer, our breath goes shallow and up here. And so what happens is the blood vessels in our bellies send a signal to our brain that actually triggers anxiety. So that kind of has this knock-on effect. We know that if we think about where do we hold stress in our body, so a lot of people hold stress in their belly. It's kind of this, you get anxious or you get nervous and it goes to your tummy and you need to go to the loo, this kind of thing. So deep breathing as well can really help with our gut health and before digestion, before a meal.
As I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, because I could well be. As I understand it, when you start to breathe rhythmically and get it right, you actually change the acidity of your blood.
Exactly.
And you make your blood more alkaline.
Exactly.
And this alkalinity can get actually quite high. Yes, that's right. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
And what happens then is you actually have to hold your breath. Is that right? You have to hold your breath for a while to literally release the oxygen into your tissues, because you're no longer acid or acidic in your bloodstream. And normally for most people, the acidity releases the oxygen. Is that correct? Or would you amplify on?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So
you would
go on.
So you go.
No, so I'm saying, because a lot of people talk about needing to alkalize the body. And one of my hobby horses lately is I keep getting people who say, should I be buying alkaline water filters? And I go, no, because you need an acidic gut. But all the things I do allow you to have an acidic gut, but an alkaline body. And that's the trick in cancer, to do that. And this would allow you to do that. That's correct, isn't it? By doing your breathing as you would, it would increase the alkalinity of your bloodstream, and then you release it. Why do you have to hold it in? I don't quite understand why do you have to hold after breathing? I don't know, for what is it, 45 seconds or something? You have to hold, and then it all goes into the tissues. Why does that happen?
I think it's the exchange of the gases. But I would have to look more into the science on that. But I think it's because of the exhaling the CO2 and then,
Well, I do know that for people who do breathworks, breathing exercises, you greatly over time lower your CO2 levels. And that's, of course, affecting your alkalinity.
Yeah, totally.
So tell me.
That alkaline debate is definitely a challenging one, isn't it? Because we kind of think, do I drink lemon water? Do I drink these things?
Well, you do, I think. I mean, in the very early stages of my book, Everything You Need to Know, I actually talked about sodium bicarbonate and suggested people had it. Now I realize how dumb that was, because it actually screws your gut up. And yes, it's an alkalizing agent, but I wouldn't do it in a million years now. But lemon juice, that's a different context. And we like people to have lemon juice and apple cider vinegar, for example, and a glass and in some water for start their day off, to make their gut more acidic. But the real trick is to get your blood and your tissues more alkaline.
Yeah.
So that's what the oxygen do. All right. So you mentioned, this stress thing. Talk to me about if you like, the non-physical side then, because
okay. So, and we know that mind-body connection with cancer is really powerful. And so for every emotion that we have, for every feeling that we have a different way of breathing. So when we're calm and relaxed, our breathing is going to be slow, it's going to be deeper. When we're stressed or in fight or flight or anxious, again, it's up here. If we think about when we're in grief, or we might hold our breath. And so when we don't want to feel something, a lot of people hold their breath. And so that means we're not exhaling, we're not eliminating that oxygen as well, we're not letting it go. And so emotionally, when we start to breathe deeper, it helps us to feel more, it helps us to balance anxiety, because we're taking the oxygen down into our belly again, that physical effect as well. And it's just, a lot of people report kind of increased feelings of joy and happiness, because it's a clearing. We're kind of clearing. It's the exhale is about releasing, and the inhale you're taking in. So it's that balance. But also on another level, Chris, we talk about the importance of having meaning, and actually that kind of spiritual element, if you want to give it that word, it's kind of actually, what do I want to be here for? What is it that brings me joy? And in a lot of kind of, for example, they talk about the breath as spirit. It's your kind of the first and last thing you do in life is to breathe. And so it actually helps you to kind of clear trauma. A lot of people use it for trauma release as well, some deeper breathing exercises, and kind of connect to more of what's important.
I know that breathing can make some people feel dizzy, but actually what it's doing is having an impact on the brain.
Exactly.
Okay. So going back to the physical side, when you do deep breathing and you get your oxygen up, that presumably helps your metabolism, because you need oxygen in your cells to have the proper energy development process.
Totally. Yeah.
Okay.
Similar to also the effects of exercise, really, because you are getting that benefit.
Yeah. When I had COVID, it was mild, but whenever I used to have flus, I haven't had flu or cold for about 25 years, but it goes to my chest. So they insisted I went into the hospital in Wahin, being an old man, and had an X-ray and got checked. And they clamped me onto some machine or whatever. And the doctor sort of came in the room. He said, right, we're going to give you an X-ray. And so I said, why do you need to give me an X-ray? And he said, because we worry about your lungs. I said, on this machine of yours, I've just gone from 99 to 100. Do you think I've really got a problem with my lungs? And he was really, he genuinely thought that because I'm older, let's put it politely, because I'm older, I must have low oxygen. That was the kind of basic theory, but it's just not, it's not correct that you have to get weaker as you age at all.
Exactly.
So
the longevity genes.
Yeah, for my average listener, viewer watching this, what do you do? What do you do? So if someone contacts you, what do you do? Do you talk to them on Zoom, or what do you do?
Yeah. So I work with them on Zoom, and in a typical one-on-one session, we'd do a breath pattern analysis. So they would lie down and I'd be watching the way that they breathe, and also seated as well. And just assessing that kind of physiology of, are you breathing into your belly? Are you mainly breathing in your upper chest? Is your diaphragm coming out the rib cage? And so we do that breath pattern analysis, and then we work out what their goals are, what they want to work on. And we would then move into a guided breath session. So it's a series of tools and techniques. It includes stretching. We will bring in the breath. I also bring in visualizations, because as we mentioned with that benefit for the mind and emotions, when we go into this deep breathing state, we actually go into a different brainwave. We go more into the theta brainwave. So we're actually able to work a little bit more on the subconscious. So it's a good time to visualize. It's a good time, a little bit like the meditative state. It's a good time to work more towards the vision of health that we say, kind of creating that vision of what you want to be thinking about. So we do that, and then we end with a relaxation, sometimes a yoga nidra, which is like a meditation sleep. Because after we've gone through the breathing exercises and you're in that relaxed state, you're open to more healing because you're more downregulated. So there's the kind of
back several times to you, or do they just do?
Yeah, sometimes I work with people 3 or 4 times, and then they have their own tools and techniques that they can use as a daily practice.
Right. But it's not really this is my thing I'm not 100% sure about. It's not really a daily practice. They don't do it for 30 minutes and then do some meditation or something afterwards. You're saying really you want them to just build it in, once they've learned the technique, to build it into their life.
Yeah. To become more kind of improved breathers, essentially. But it would be a routine that you would do for 5-10 minutes each day.
Okay. So you might spend 10 minutes a day actually making sure your breathing was correct and getting your oxygen up.
Exactly, until it becomes more natural. For me now, I don't really have to think about taking a deep breath. And the other thing is, Chris, there's the book by James Nestor, which is all about the fact that so many of us are mouth breathers. And when we only breathe in and out through our mouth, that can actually really also affect our microbiome. That can affect our lots of things. We want to be breathing more through the nose day to day, because that's our filter system. So it's kind of working on that too.
All right, then. So let's go through just a couple of things each time. So how does this support, for example, chemotherapy?
It's really supportive for the side effects of chemotherapy. As we said, bringing in more calm and relaxation. Breathwork can be really supportive for reducing stress and anxiety. So there's that kind of mind-body factor. Great for sleep. Lots of people say I'm too kind of busy or active, particularly if they're on steroids and things. And I've noticed that really supports the sleep, the wind down, and for your immune system, it's really supportive, particularly if kind of your neutrophils have dropped. It can be great to focus on that diaphragmatic breathing.
So it's like a sort of acupuncture without the pins.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I've got it now.
And also, Chris, another thing to mention though is the brain. If we think about chemo brain, how does it support chemo brain? It can help with brain fog.
Oh, right. Okay. A lot of people are having more and more drugs, as far as I can make out. They're not having 1 anymore. They're having 4, and a lot of brain fog around. So we've covered the body, we've covered the mind. There is this word healing, and everywhere when I did my homework, it was talking about how breathing is great for healing people. So not just cancer. What would you say to people who had, I don't know, cardiovascular disease or dementia or something like that?
So in terms of the healing element, for me, it comes back to that nervous system discussion of the fact that we heal in that rest and digest. We heal in the parasympathetic. So our cells, that is when that takes place. And most of the time, when you speak to people about their kind of protocol or what they're doing, it's a lot of doings. I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. And actually, how much time do we spend kind of being or actively relaxing without doing anything? And so breathwork provides that opportunity to have time out where you do relax at the end, because we do focus at the end of a breathwork guided session. We will then just have full relaxation. So yes, that brings in that opportunity to heal because we're not busy in the doings.
Okay. I have a sort of funny thought about this. You have an autonomic nervous system. And the autonomic nervous system covers, how everything moves through your gut, how you breathe, and so on. So when people get, as my dad did, severe Parkinson's, and he was basically just in a bed, it all still works. You still breathe, and you still, poo every day. But that's the autonomic system. You then have a sympathetic system, which is what we're talking about. By doing things, you can change your hormones and everything else. And what you're really saying is that the whole idea of the autonomic system, it's not just fixed in someone. You can use breathing in the sympathetic system to alter the autonomic system.
Exactly.
Okay. Interesting. So anything else you want to add?
Anything else I
not
want to
ask you
add?
something.
Just for people, it can be, when we talk about that healing element, I think changing the way that you breathe is actually something that's really accessible to all of us and can be one of the most powerful tools, particularly if we're going into any stressful situation. If you're going to hospital, if you're going to an appointment, if you're in a scan, it can be really beneficial to really help with that stress response, but also to be more present, because again, we're often thinking about the future and moving forward. And one of the quickest ways to come into the present moment is to take a deep breath. And it can be a really quick way to calm.
Was there a moment in your cancer treatment when you hit upon breathing or decided that you were going to learn about it?
It was in recovery. So it was about a year after my treatment. I was doing a little bit of meditation. I'm someone who's quite active as well, and actually having the breathing as part of the meditation is helpful for my mind to stay focused. So it was after that. But it's been one of the most transformative things I've done in recovery, hands down. That's why I trained as a breath worker, when I experienced the power of the breath.
If someone wants to come to you, do they have to prepare in any way? Do they have to put their tracksuit on or something, or what? Do they have to do anything?
You want to be as comfortable as possible. So wearing kind of loose clothing. It's important to be in a space that you can lie down and relax. And it's really good to work with an intention. So I find if we would already think about the changes that we want to make before going into a session, we're already kind of moving towards that. So it's things like, is there something I want to be letting go of or releasing? Is there something I want more of, more energy, or releasing certain suppressed emotions can be really supportive of cancer as well. So we work with that. And I also I'm doing group sessions. So I'm doing Breathwork for Cancer once a month. And that's just a monthly online workshop that anyone can come to. And we talk about the immune system, digestion, but also relaxation and sleep. So yeah, there's those.
How do people get a hold of you, Soph?
So people can get in touch through my website, www.sophietrew.com, and they can also email sophie@trew.fields.com.
Okay, brilliant. I think what interests me is when you read Wim Hof or something like that, it's a very practical thing. But what I've learned today is actually breathing is a bridge. It's a bridge between a practical benefit and an emotional benefit and a mental benefit and so on. And I think it can benefit people. It's almost like a stepping stone to meditation and so on. As I jokingly said, it's acupuncture without the pins. But, it now is much more about mind, body, and soul than just getting your oxygen up.
Exactly. Totally. That's it, Chris. Yeah.
Okay. Anything you'd like to add?
No, just thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to breathing with anyone that wants to be involved soon.
I look forward to watching this video again and learning to breathe and to make me live to 100 at least. Okay. All right.
Belly breathing.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. And it's always really, really lovely to see you.
Yeah, always a pleasure. Thank you, Chris.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.